Hey guys, EDDBUD here and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll offer you a comparison between two shoes of similar stats in some ways. Today I'm looking at two shoes with some longer range chops. For those longer distance efforts, though still nimble enough for some faster paces, a Boost versus Fresh Foam matchup between the New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 V10 and the Adidas Boston 9. Every time I put this shoe in front of the camera doesn't know what to do and the sensor starts to try to close down, and it's really odd. You can actually see it happening. What strange properties this shoe has. Some quick stats for you on these two shoes before we get stuck into the comparison. We have an 8mm drop in the Adidas Boston 9, 21mm in the heel and 13 in the forefoot. In my UK size 11.5, we have a shoe weighing 275 grams, so that's about 9.7 ounces. An 8mm drop in the 1080 V10, but there's a much greater stack height here. 30mm in the heel and 22 in the forefoot, which gives us a much greater weight of 326 grams for my UK size 11.5, 11.5 ounces. Let's start with the upper first. So quite a distinct difference here between the two shoes. In the upper, mesh based in the Boston 9 with a much thinner tongue on the top of the forefoot. I mean, up against the knit based material here on the 1080 V10, which has a great deal of elasticity and flexibility about it. I would suggest that the Boston 9 upper, certainly in the forefoot and the toe box, is actually far more generous in terms of fit than the 1080 V10. I've tried loads of Adidas shoes out over the last year or so, and this one's certainly the most generous in terms of the actual material on the shoe. Would I go down half a size? No, the length of the shoe still is within the similar boundaries that you'd expect from an Adidas running shoe. I'd suggest that the Boston 9 is by far the more breathable of the two shoes and a more traditional fit to the shoe by a country mile. I always found that the 1080 V10, though a very comfortable upper, always felt a lot more present. I mean, it's got some quite strange design features here. There's a distinct curvature to the midsole, as you can see, and that transfers across to the upper as well. You've got this crazy heel flare here, which was a bit of an issue. It just seems to pick up dirt and debris when you end up carrying it around in the back of your shoe. It did take a little getting used to, and certainly on some routes that I ran in the shoe over my 100 miles, it did seem to pick up lots of debris. By far the better lockdown is achieved in the Adidas Boston 9 against the 1080 V10. You've got those extra little holes on the sides of the tongue that you can put the laces through to create an even better lockdown over the top of the forefoot. I'd suggest on my longer runs, both shoes fared really well in terms of upper. The 1080 V10 up to about 10 miles did start to loosen up a little bit too much and it had to be retied. The elastic laces in the 1080 V10 aren't really my favourite type of lace. Not sure why New Balance feel the need to include them in all of their models. They just seem to give too much as you're trying to lace them up, and just not sure it's the way forward. Much better with these type of almost candle wick type laces in the Adidas Boston 9. The upper fares well in both shoes over tempo paces. When you start to run at a faster pace, didn't have many issues aside from the tongue starting to slip down in the Boston 9. That was easily remedied using those additional holes. Didn't have that same issue in the 1080 V10, it just seems to stay put pretty much where it is. Although you will find that the actual tongue begins at round about the fourth lace eyelets. It's kind of strange. That more padded tongue does stay put there and provides some really good protection against the laces over the top of the foot. I have to say there's elements of both uppers here that I really like, and as such I'm going to call it a tie on upper.
Midsole now.
I found the properties of the 1080 V10 midsole stabilised after about 10 miles in the shoe. I thought it was great as a daily shoe. I commuted with it on a number of occasions earlier in the year. Such a large amount of midsole on the 1080 V10 though that in some really wet conditions that I did encounter in February and March of this year, it did start to feel a little bit brick-like. Where it's wet and windy, the shoe's actually quite a bit heavier than the Boston 9 due to that increased amount of midsole material. Boston 9 midsole though was great, straight out of the box, and it continues to be very serviceable at a variety of different paces. The Fresh Foam in the 1080 V10 is very cushioned, but at times I just felt that there was too much there for me. I think the increased amount of stack height in the shoe just doesn't really seem to do me any favours in terms of my running style. Just felt a little bit like overkill to me actually on a number of days, even when I was trying to run at really easy paces. Might be down to my weight, might be down to my height, might be down to my running style, but it just felt like there was too much there. I find the spread of boost here in the midsole of the Boston 9 ideal for my running style. This sort of cage system here where you've got boost partly caged by light strike does seem to draw from other shoes that Adidas have been producing over the last few years, certainly from some of their more casual lines. It does seem to work a treat though, once they've placed it into a running type usage. I find just the right amount of boost is present in the heel and the forefoot of the shoe. Still makes it feel like a very nimble shoe, but provides some really great cushion underfoot. Fast and snappy with ample cushioning, sometimes less is more. I think I find the amount of fresh foam in the beacon from New Balance a little bit more to my taste. But that aside, I can see why a number of runners do really enjoy the midsole cushion in the 1080 V10 if they're after a little bit more of a dense, highly cushioned type ride for perhaps longer miles. Maybe if you're a heavy built runner, could be absolutely ideal for you. I think you've always got to try and see from other people's points of view whenever you do these comparative videos, but for me I think the Boston 9 takes it on midsole.
Outsole now.
So these shoes have got a vastly different outsole approach. You've got a slat-like approach here on the outsole of the Boston 9 with the classic Continental rubber. Nice even application of that Continental rubber right across the outsole. There's some decent thickness there, I don't see it wearing down anytime soon. The 1080 V10's got that blown rubber pretty much all the way across the outsole, apart from this section through the midfoot here, reaching down towards the heel of the shoe. Only in the toe-off area and part of the midfoot there did I see any wear over 100 miles. It's pretty much aesthetic wear as well. Shoes got some good grip still on road and on pavements. Seems to work fine on gravel, but on smoother, wet surfaces I did experience some slipping. No such issue there with the Boston 9, though I'm much earlier in my testing. At present about 45 miles on the shoe, but there's no visual wear whatsoever. I don't see there being any wear anytime soon. Overall I find the Boston 9 somewhat more sure underfoot. I think it works better in a wider variety of different conditions, so it takes the outsole crown this time round. It's value time. At only £120, I think that the Boston 9 represents some rather good value. I think superb value for a lighter weight shoe, but still with the cushion that's able to handle the marathon distance. Easily went up to 15 miles in this one, done some faster speed work in it and some easy days. I disagree with some of the reviews out there that suggest that the shoe hasn't got the cushion to go up to the marathon distance. I think it's a lot down to the build of the runner. Yes, perhaps if you're a heavier build, then maybe the Boston 9 doesn't have the required cushion in the midfoot and forefoot for a marathon distance. I think you've always got to think perspective with shoe reviews. It's easy to say, yeah, this shoe was really great for me, or this shoe wasn't good for me, and that's it. It makes it a bad shoe. No, it doesn't work like that. I think it's easily cushioned enough for people with a lighter build, so don't discount it. So that more expensive retail price of £135 for the New Balance 1080 V10, what does it grant you? Well, it's certainly a plusher upper here. It certainly feels a lot more present on foot. There is some additional width in the toe box of this shoe, and of course New Balance do this shoe in several different width fittings. So I think it's a little bit down to the runner as to which of these two shoes will benefit and suit you best. The Boston 9 is a more nimble shoe, but perhaps the width of Adidas shoes may well put you off. It's quite a narrow shoe. If you've got a wider foot, it's the 1080 for you. I think it does look pretty smashing, this one too. What do you think, viewers? If you are looking for something with more cushion here for those long, slow runs, the 1080 could be for you. Though in terms of value, I think I do prefer the Boston 9. Lighter, more breathable, and a nimble feeling on foot, and it's a little bit cheaper. I've actually seen this shoe recently for well under £100, so I don't think you can lose at that price. What are your experiences between these two shoes, people? I seem to prefer the lower stack height shoes right now, and this one really does leap out as a shoe that always calls to me from the box and says,
Ed, running me.
I think it really fits the bill for me in terms of the cushion to weight balance. Let me know your views and opinions down in the comments. Musical interlude time. The other day I was up quite late and I ended up watching a full concert from the Flaming Lips. Reminded me just how great some of their material was, and I put some of their tracks back onto the Apple Watch so I could listen to them while I was out running. Some of those tracks were featured on an album called Yoshi Battles the Pink Robots. Great album from back in 2002. The title track is really great, one of their live staples. But another real standout tune is Do You Realise, with some quite poignant lyrics there. Quite an introspective time for me at the moment, really. Sort of feeling very excited but a little bit anxious too with the arrival or pending arrival of our baby boy. And listening to the Flaming Lips makes you remember how important life is. Quite a strange journey sometimes. You can feel really happy about something but also worried and anxious about it too. But listening to the Flaming Lips always makes you remember to try and be in that moment and enjoy what's going on around you. And I can sometimes fall out of that moment and forget. Quite often, in fact. I do remember seeing the Flaming Lips live several times. It was one of the best live music experiences that I'd ever seen. Incredible feeling of joy and euphoria around you, and togetherness as well. I think we've been starved of over the last few months. Do go and check it out. The Flaming Lips, Yoshi Battles the Pink Robots. Thanks for watching through to the very end, guys. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that subscribe button and click the bell for notifications below of when new videos are launched. We're well on the way to 9,000 subscribers now, so it really does amaze me and kind of bowls me over like a skittle. It helps the channel out a huge amount if you give this video a thumbs up like and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you